New here, this is my 1986 Porsche 944 Lux that I recommissioned last year. During the recommission we refurbished the front suspension, fitting polyurethane bushes and rebuilding the bottom arms with new ball joints. We also tackled the brakes, rebuilding the calipers, fitting new discs and pads, along with new brake hoses. Surplus to this, we also did the cam belt, water pump, power steering pump, put a new oil cooler and oil seals in there, as well as putting new speed and reference sensors in. The only other thing we did was give the car a blowover respray. We didn't remove any of the trims or windows because this car was solid. No rust on it whatsoever. It even has the original sills at 39 years old. But since then, and since spending £4,000 in parts on the car's literally sat here and done nothing. Since passing its MOT last May, it's literally been driven in and out of this garage to allow me to work on the Stag, which is not ideal. I did plan on using it at one point or another, but plans change. And since those plans have changed, it's decided it doesn't want to start. As you can see, it doesn't start. And today in this video we are going to try and fix that. I believe the issue to be fuel related. Either an injector is sticking open, possibly from one of the signal wires, or we could have low fuel pressure during from a dodgy fuel pump. Yeah, but if anyone wants this car, to spending that on it, I also paid £2,000 for it, so it owes me £6,000. If anyone wants to take it off me, feel free to contact me, because it's really in the way. With the bonnet off, you can see some parts have been removed already. This was at a previous date before Christmas when I was playing off camera. So yeah, the 4 injectors are just here. It's nice and simple on an old car such as this. I'm going to pull the rail off and then I'm going to crank the engine over with the injectors, that in a bottle, so then we can see if they are spraying, etc, etc. Right, so previously to this I have actually tested for spark, and we do have spark on all 4 cylinders. I don't know how strong it is, it could still be a weak coil, but I am leaning more towards injector fault, mainly due to the front 2 plugs being very wet, the back 2 plugs being quite dry. What it tends to do is it just tends to really rough when it's cold, especially if I've not started it in a while. It'll run horrendously rough if I just rolling it in and out the garage, just doing a hard any miles, so I feel like it's flooding itself. So yeah, I want to take the injectors off. We will just need to remove all the clips that are along the way here, and the rail will just pop off. I'll try and put them in a safe place, but I'm really bad for losing things. I really didn't want to take these off. I've been putting it off for a while. Every time you take these off, it's like little O-rings on top of the injectors. They tend to leak. So I'm having to readjust the fuel rail, trying to get the thing to not leak. So, be very, very careful. You also need to be quite wary. Now that the clips are off, I can undo the rail. It's just 4 bolts like you can see here. The rail will then come off without the risk of the clips flying into the oblivion. While I'm taking those off, here's a little parts diagram. Leaving the injectors in place and splitting them from the rail reduces the risk of me breaking these 40-year-old injectors. And just like that, the rail is free from those injectors. And then remove them one by one, and overall they didn't look too bad. Maybe a little bit of carbon on the end, but nothing really to worry about. The seals also didn't look too bad. I'm not going to get much in the way. I've seen them. Did also clean the injector seats down there. They were pretty dirty. So next we pull the rest of the injectors. I then refitted them to the rail, ready to test the injectors. I basically just want to see a good spray pattern. DIY mechanics isn't an exact science. And I'm just going to put the DME relay back in now. After that I'm going to kick it over again and see if it looks like there's a good fan coming from each injector. Obviously I've not plugged in the other one because I'm a retard. At least we have fuel pressure. Yeah, the only thing there that I noticed is they all fired at the same time. I don't know if that's normal or not. Anyway, that was a slight dead end. At least I've had a chance to clean them and get them back in. Which means that I can now refit the injector rail. I will then refit the intake over there, and we'll see if the car starts and runs nicely. So yeah, it's just a reverse of what we did before. Just have to get the fuel rail on nice and level, pushing down on the injectors, getting the bolts in, nipping them a little bit, then getting the clips on, then refitting the bolt, and then checking for leaks. A real pain in the backside, but it's something we had to test. When all this is on, I will kick it over, see if it starts, but I do not hold out much hope at all. Cleaning things doesn't usually fix things. But we will see. Going on. And so we have fuel through all 4 injectors as seen before. Obviously the 4th one was unplugged when I did the first test, but yeah, once plugged in we had fuel firing out in a nice neat pattern out of all injectors, so there's no faults there. I definitely think there's enough pressure at the fuel rail. You know what I mean, you saw how hard that injector fired off when I knocked it. I have also pulled the plugs out on a previous time, spun it round, and there's a good strong spark at the plug as well because those are all new, so the fault isn't there. After several hours of pain and misery, I think I may have got to the bottom of the fault, possibly. I have been around all the engine, I've tested all the sensors on the engine, such as the ECU temp sensor, the speed and reference sensors at the back. Even though I've changed them, I've gone around them all, checking all the resistances, making sure they are within spec, and they all are within spec. I've then tested all the grounds. Most sensors, they all ground out. They either have 2 wires going to them, one's a ground, or the actual ground out on the engine itself. So we've been there testing for continuity with the multimeter. Basically you put a wire to ground, then you put a wire to the cable, and it beeps if you've got a good ground, because that is quite often the fault with a lot of things. All the sensors are good. All sensors are good resistance wise, and they're all grounding out properly. So I thought, well, what else could be wrong? Then I've gone around the car and I thought, wait, there could be a vacuum leak, but I don't actually have something to test vacuum leak, or so I thought. So then basically what I've done is I have rigged up my airline up to one of the vacuum lines on the engine. I don't know how well you'll hear that hissing now. Here, where it's leaking from when it's under pressure. And we have a vacuum leak right at the back here. The camera a little bit closer and you can see if you can hear it. But anyway, I am hoping that if I tighten this up, the car will start. So it is just that connector down there, just past the spark plug. You just about see the top of it. So I need to nip that up, and then hopefully that's our vacuum leak sorted, and then the car will start. Obviously I've just had to block it off there just to keep the pressure up. Done that with a can of carb cleaner. Probably not the safest thing, but yeah, I'm hoping now that should be problem solved. Yeah, there's no actual cracks anywhere. The Jubilees are just very, very old. So yeah, I've just cleaned up the metal fitting. I'm going to re-clamp them up, and I'm going to see if that is the problem solved. Sometimes you do have to just take things apart, clean them and put them back together on old cars. Bit of a pain, but it's what you've got to do, isn't it? That piece goes back in there. You won't be able to see any of this because it's just completely obstructed. Really, you're probably better off taking the inlet manifold out of the car, but I can't be bothered. After fixing the vacuum leak, it still wouldn't start. Let's fast forward another 24 hours where my dad is here to help me compression test the engine. Yeah, we're getting that worried now.
It's easy up to there, you know what I mean? Yeah, 175, 175. Yeah, 170. Yeah. What was that, 170 again? Yeah. They're all about the same. Yeah. Well, this car doesn't smoke or anything when it's running. Running.
After compression testing all 4 cylinders, the results came back amazingly well. The figures all range between 170 and 175 psi, and anything above 150 really is considered good on these cars.
Right, should we get it up in the air and look at that last if it's not that, I don't know what it is. That's the other thing we've changed, isn't it? The rotor. Maybe we've got spark, we won't get spark. And I've looked at it, it's not mashed up or anything like that. It's pretty alright, you know what I mean? What else? So we think that. We know we've got compression, so that's the main thing.
We've got compression, I've had the fuel rail off, I've had the injectors firing out, they're all firing equal amounts of fuel, so the signal wire that I thought could be a bit in there, fine. We've got spark. I've not tested spark while it's out. You put a plug in each one if you want. Just do the ones with the big gap. Put that in there.
Okay, bit of spark there. That's nothing. Yeah, I was going to do that. Cool. There, right, no spark. thought it was fuel, but obviously not. Right, okay.
That's quite a good spark there, that.
Okay, yeah, that's alright, that's big. BP6ES. These are the old plugs out of the car. Should we put the old plugs in, see if it starts? Where are the old plugs? It's a BP6ES. So what on there? BP6ES.
Let's just try this.
I then located the old plugs off the car. My dad's just here testing that the old plugs still have spark. And they do. So we'll fit them to the car and then we'll see if it starts, eh?
Right, try that other one then now. Where is it? So put them all to one side by this that are good. Yeah. Wanna cry?
I'm not there yet, no.
Can get them in. Let's just see what happens.
Yeah, no, see why it's fuel to start because you've got fucking 2 plugs working.
Not jinxed at all. Stop. It doesn't conk out every time I look at
How many
it.
people
Across the toes. Those are really old plugs, but they need new plugs. Starts.
I'm just so glad it runs, honestly. I definitely think the 2 wet plugs are throwing me off here. If you remember rightly, the 2 front plugs were wet, the back were dry. Now it's the 2 front plugs that were wet were the ones with no spark. Obviously hence why they were wet. Then the back 2 are probably burning off when the car coughed.
Just like that, the car runs. I can't believe 2 plugs were broken. I did change those plugs 6 years ago, but they were brand new plugs and it's hardly even been ran since. I've got 4 new plugs here which I will put on in due course, but I am just glad it runs now and it's nothing serious. So yeah, join me next time where I will continue work on the Stag. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and we will see you next time.